often get asked the question, what exactly is the specification of your ultra build? So this is a little video starting with a nasty diff that's on the autopsy bench. Not very clean, so we're going to get this cleaned and sent off to our cleaning company, and when it gets back it will look a lot better, and we'll start from there. So then we take them to the cleaners and we leave them there for a week or so, and they are aqua blasted and they come up like new. We'll show you in a minute. And here's casing back from the cleaners. Yep, it's the same casing, just a little bit cleaner. There's various types of Land Rover casings, but it boils down to two distinct types. The first here is the later type, right up to Puma. Now, the adjuster ring, which is one of these, which is really important, this holds together the backlash of your diff. So if this moves, it can alter the backlash. And if that happens, your diff can be scrapped. So on the later ones, they have a 3mm cotter pin. That's 3mm thick with a hole in the middle. And that's got to hold that from moving around. The earlier casings have a great big locking tab, which is a lot stronger. It's nasty. If you look at that, it's not even oval, and we make our own, which we'll show you later. But that actually is a much stronger unit locking in, as you can see. It also has these ridges that run down both sides of the carrier cap, making this a much stronger casing. Over here, we don't use these for our peg casings because that little line across there is like a crack across. So we've seen many peg casings that crack across here, turning the casing into scrap. Being a peg casing, that's expensive. And bear in mind that these carrier caps are not only different, but they're handed. So even when you get a diff and you've got two of these, if you get them muddled up, it won't work properly. These are actually made to fit each side of the diff and machined, and they are made for life to fit on one side or the other. You can't swap them round. So we don't use any of these types of carrier cap casings for our peg casings. We use these for non-peg casings. That's not to say they're weak. Well, I suppose they are weak, but on a peg casing, that line there becomes a problem. On this it isn't. We've never seen one of these break on a peg casing. If you look down here where the cotter pin goes through, it's not even round. So we have our own made. This is made out of CR80, which is a very, very hard steel, and a laser cut hole. These fit really perfectly and lock the adjuster ring in place. So some welding later, and we're moving on with the Ultra Build spec, except that this one does have a 7 on that side that I put, but I put it on the wrong side. So we've renamed it, and there it is. This is casing number 700, which we're now going to machine, tap and paint and move on with an Ultra Build. But quite something in 10 years, 700 casings. Onto the machining. Milling machine from 1900 Gaslight meets modern technology, which is a 10 insert facing cutter, which we will now machine the top of casing number 700. Here we go. Machined off nice and flat, ready for the auto tapping head to work its wonders. And now with a through coolant drill, we go straight through the casing and out the other side. One down, one to go. That's 27mm thickness going through there. And now the bit we never tire of watching, automatic tapping head, putting an M16 by 2mm thread. We've done one, here goes the other. The head automatically puts the thread as it goes down, little black line. When it reaches the bottom, pull the lever and it reverses and comes all the way out, and it just amazes us. So we've got a perfect cut thread on both ears. When we do the Ultra Builds, we only use Timken bearings. They are the most expensive, but there's a reason, and that is they're the best. If you want to use something cheaper, you don't get the reliability. So all the bearings we use are Timken. Similarly, we don't use the rather nasty square flange that you see on a lot of diffs. The only reason these are used is they're cheap. But for something that spins at speed off-road that's square, I don't think it's the greatest idea. The other thing with these square flanges is they actually have this horrible spacer in there, and these, to be honest, can sometimes be damaged. So when you actually put this lot together, you don't get a particularly nice finish, whereas with these, because it's longer, you don't actually need that. And instead of the nasty tin shield here, which is about as much use as a chocolate frog, we actually use our super flange, which fits inside the nose of the diff, moving the pinion seal back, and that with the Puma flange and a genuine seal is what we use all the time. That means we don't have to worry about that anymore. And then we have bolts. Even the pinion bolts, castle nuts or whatever on the end of the pinion, we don't reuse them. This again is an 8.8 grade. We've seen these shear where the prop shaft has been really wrenching. We use our own, which is a flanged head, as you can see, no washer needed, 10.9 grade, so seriously upgraded, and we use these on every rebuild, new castle nuts, etc, etc. We barely reuse anything that we can replace with anything better, stronger or new. On the crown wheel bolts, the standard bolt really is a very low grade bolt, and it has a rather nasty washer with it. These have a great tendency to stretch, and once they stretch they come undone, causing all sorts of damage. You also don't know how much work these are done. They could be 30, 40, 50 years old. They're cheap, they're nasty, we don't reuse them. We use FTC 5150, which is the Land Rover heavy duty 12.9 grade, so it's a much stronger bolt, flanged head, so you don't need a washer with it, and we use those on all our builds as well. Similarly, we don't muck about with the pinion washer, we put a brand new genuine one on there. And then there's the carrier bolts themselves. The carrier bolts are a very low grade 8.8 grade bolt. Now with the crown wheel bolts they put a washer on. With the carrier bolts that do a really important job, they don't. No, we don't understand either. Again, you don't know how much work they've done, so we throw those away and we put 12.9 grade socket head cap bolts in. And if that's not enough, we also use a lovely little item called a Nordlock washer. These are very expensive, but they are the best locking washer on the market. They work on a cam locking system with teeth that dig into the metal on each side. Once they're done up, they need 3 times the force to undo them as it does to do up. Actually, if you've noticed, that Nordlock is very similar to the bottom of this bolt here. So just from that alone, we throw most of what's in a diff away. If not everything can start again with high quality bearings, new genuine parts, upgraded bolts everywhere, Nordlock washers and super flange and genuine seal. So now we'll go back to casing 700 and we'll do a little bit of work on that. So here's our build bench with our building clamp, and in here is casing 700 that we've now properly cleaned up. We've taken all the bearings out. We also need to grind away a bit there because we're putting a heavy duty 3.5. What we're going to do now is play around with the shims and get the pinion height correct with our special tool, and then we can actually start building it. So with our special tool that we have in place, we're now going to measure the pinion height up to the carrier caps, which is absolutely essential for a decent diff. And that comes out at 111.12, which is a pinion height of 0.0. It means it's absolutely bang on. So we got the right shim in there. Something that isn't standard on the Ultra Build that we can fit to all long nose differentials like this one is our oil vein. Basically the target area here for the oil to get into the pinion tail bearing is very, very small. And so what we do is we have an oil vein. Here we have our oil vein. They're handed rears and fronts. This is a rear because we're building it as a rear. If someone wants it as a front, we'll change it over. But the idea of this is it goes on top of the pinion bearing, and as the pinion bearing spins round and the oil comes up, it flicks it all around down into the pinion bearing, which is one of the top failure points on Land Rover diffs. This is an optional extra, but we can do it for all long nose diffs, front and rear. And as you'll see, we're fitting a heavy duty Ashcroft 3.5 ring gear. The interesting thing about the Ashcroft ring gears is the teeth are absolutely huge compared with the cams. The cams have a thicker plate at the bottom but smaller teeth. The Ashcroft has huge teeth and a smaller plate called the Land, and we think that the cam gears are probably stronger unpegged and the Ashcroft are stronger pegged, but this one's being pegged anyway, so you get the best of both worlds, an Ashcroft ring gear and a peg casing. And now we offer it all up and start finishing it off. What we do now after the blue check is just check the 4 quadrants for both backlash and run out. Backlash is the gap between the pinion tooth and crown wheel tooth. We're looking for sort of 5, maybe 6. What have we got?
We've got 5, maybe 6.
We've got 5, maybe 6, which is really good. We'll check it in 4 more places. And this is the third and fourth one that has been done. So the last one we got a backlash of
6.
So we got one. So here we go, finished. One ultra build. The only difference on this ultra build from anything else is we put an oil vein in it. Everything else that you saw in this video you get standard on any of our ultra builds. And there it is. This will be going on the web shop. Lucky number 700. Peg casing, Crayf 24 spline centre, Ashcroft rear, 3.54 heavy duty crown wheel, full ultra build. Thanks for watching.